Who will ever forget the freedom that was not handed to us? It was fought for every single day. We fought when we were tired. We fought when we were hungry. We fought when the cost was our blood. We never stopped. It was a fight of tears and fire and sacrifice, and we are proud of fighting because this fighting was just. It was necessary. Omera, before I speak, I'd like to ask, what's in your cup? Is it provocation or is it peace? I am the Kikombe, your second favorite storyteller, and today I serve you a tale that's brewed in the fire of Pan-Africanism and stirred in the pot of hope for Africa and betrayal. Buckle up. The fire does not forget. The day was heavy with the heat in this African city. The streets echoed with a strange kind of electricity, a mix of celebration and suspicion. In this huge hall with echoing walls with foreign kings and local chiefs, Isaïe, that's his name. He's too tall, and he had a suit that had seen it all. And his tie was new, his shoes, they were shining, and they had stories to tell. You know that song? Uliza kiatu. Uliza. But there was something determined in his eyes. There was a sense to tell that the masses waiting outside, that no tailor could ever craft what was happening to his country on that day. The story of sweat for his country that no cardio would ever let you achieve. Monsieur le Prime Ministre, il est temps. Mr. Prime Minister, it is time. The soldier next to him whispered, it's time, bro. It took him a moment to understand that he was the one being addressed with such a title. Premier Ministre, Prime Minister. Man. So he stepped onto the podium. And one king from a colonizer kingdom had already spoken. And what this king had said was confusing, considering the sweat, the blood and tears that his country had overcome to get to this moment. And the colonizer king mentioned that his kingdom has been respectful to this African country up to this moment. He actually used the word benevolent. Benevolent. 15 million of Isaïe's people had been killed. 15 million. And you use the word benevolent? Bro. Bienveillant? Bienveillante? Benevolent? You can't use the word benevolent. Using this word alongside chopping off arms of young boys and women for not reaching daily mining numbers. It's an atrocious crime. You can't use the word bienveillant. Bienveillante. But yaliondwele sipite. Yaliopita sindwele, ganga yajayo. Focus. Focus. And focus he did. Focus on the future and your days will look brighter. Focus he did. Now, it was his turn to speak, Isaïe. It was Isaïe's turn to address his people, to address his colonizers, to address the world. And if you ever watch the footage of this day, you will struggle to find a single moment of Isaïe looking at the colonizer king. Didn't keep eye contact, didn't look at the king. He looked at the crowd beyond the walls, outside in the echoing walls. The men and women struggling, his people, who had come from near and far in thousands, barefoot or in torn slippers and sweaty shirts. They had come to witness this historic moment. Man, woman, child, straining themselves to get a glimpse through golden doors to just catch a glimpse of Isaïe, their prime minister. Isaïe took a deep breath, and then he spoke. Alisema ikamtoka, bro. It was a powerful speech. And some say that the way he spoke on that day, he handed himself his death sentence. The day is here, he said. The day is here. His voice was steady. This is the day when the whip no longer speaks for us. Some VIPs and diplomats were shifting in their seats already, uncomfortably. You know how it is. You know how dignitaries, when something uncomfortable is said, when the truth is said, sometimes the evidence speaks so loud with every movement they make. They shift, start shifting, they reach for their watches, they find a handkerchief and wipe themselves with sweat that doesn't exist, and then their faces get red, and they give that fake smile. You know that smile. Do you know what I mean? But in the back, there was an old man, and he kept nodding his head in slow agreement. It was an encouraging fatherly nod that you can only get from an African father. The nod, the squinting eyebrows movement, you know that move. The face going, You know that African the African face that says, damn, yes, brother. Anyway, story ends there, and they lived happily ever after. Yep, story finito, the end. Wait. You want more? Omera's story cannot end like that without more intense parts. I'm just kidding. It's not an African story until something pushes you off your seat. So this nod that this African man was giving him, it was an acknowledgement of Isaïe's speech. And his father once gave him this nod when he was a young boy, when he was growing up in a place called Sankuru. And a fond memory he has was when he was about 5 years old. He was chasing a hoop. And there's one of these hoops made of bicycle rims, and he was hitting it using a stick as he ran. And it took him a while to find the rhythm to keep going, right? And the joy in his face when he finally figured it out was insurmountable. And if you grew up African like us, you know that feeling is rewarding when you can ride that thing. It's called mufarafara. We called it mufarafara. So keeping it up, especially if you're using a string or a rope, it's not easy. We did wheelies with that, right? It's beautiful. So his father was so proud of him playing with this hoop that when he got home dusty and red from the volcanic soil of Africa, instead of the usual yelling and scorning of being dirty, his father gave him the nod, the smile. You know that. And even the mom gave him the nod. Isaïe's mom was called Julienne, and his dad was called Francois. And like many African places at night, Africans would sit around the fire. And Isaïe sat around the fire listening to elders tell stories of a river. And this river used to swallow people that came to invade their land. And there was always a sentence that the elders used, and it said, "The river does not forget." And they would always say this, spitting into the flames of the fire. The river does not forget. Another childhood memory he has is that he went to a mission school. Colonialism, the colonialists together with the missionaries, so-called missionaries, they put together what we call mission schools, and they were controlled by the church. You know, the more you dig into African history, the more you find a can of worms that are crazy, right? So anyway, Isaïe's teachers were Belgian. And one day, a Belgian inspector asked him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Do you know what he said? He said, I want to be your boss. People that witnessed this moment say that he said it so confidently without blinking. And the man laughed, thinking that this was a joke, but Isaïe didn't laugh back. You know that song, Hatu Cheki na Watu. Anyway, years later, he got a job and worked at a post office. He sorted letters in a tiny little office. And he looked at letters coming from Brussels, Paris, New York, all those places. And in the evening, with his friends over warm beer. Oh, by the way, it's normal to drink warm beer. We Africans do it. It's normal. So don't look at me like I'm coming from Pluto, which is not a planet anymore, apparently. Yeah, we Africans do it. We drink warm beer sometimes. It's okay. Room temperature beer, not warm, like warm. Anyway, Isaïe and his friends over room temperature beer, they always debated about the future. Do you think we will ever see independence? One friend asked him one time. I don't wait for mangoes to fall. I climb the tree, Isaïe said. By 1955, he found himself Maju in Brussels, Majuko. And one thing that always bothered Isaïe was that at the moment, right, he discovered that Belgium was draining so much from his country. And at that time, he saw a tram. And at dinner with his friends, he asked one day, he said, if Belgians can build this tram here, why can't they build it in my country? Do you know what the guy said? Can you guess? He said, some soils aren't meant for certain seeds. And Isaïe was sharp with his responses. They always hit the colonizers hard, touch that nerve that not many people want to touch. And he said, in that case, it is clear that the farmer does not know how to plant. Anyway, 1958, he found himself in Accra, Ghana. It was amongst men like Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure. If you come from Kenya, you know Tom Mboya was there. Pan-Africanists, Africans who spoke of a free Africa. And Accra lit a fire in Isaïe that he never knew existed in him. And when he got home, the fire spread through towns and villages. Every word was liberate Africa. Africa must be free. We want to be independent. My land must be free. And the song was sung daily throughout Africa. And his voice, at the time, it was too loud to be ignored. People were becoming more aware of their land. People knew that the colonizers were sucking it dry. And they knew that their land was rich enough to feed empires. They had copper that could rebuild cities. They had diamonds that could blind the sun. They had cobalt that would one day fuel machines yet to be born by Elon Musk in China, you know? Yet, the people that controlled and ruled this country, they worked together with the colonizers. And although his land was rich, these people were poor in vision. The same people bought powdered milk as they sat next to cows. Anyway, elections came, and yes, Isaïe went to the ballot to become prime minister. And when the elections came, of course you know the people chose him. With a brain like Isaïe, who wouldn't elect you? And at that time, there was a gentleman called Kasavubu. Kasavubu became president that year. And at the time of independence, Kasavubu shook his hand, but it wasn't as hard a handshake. And then there was another guy called Chombe from Katanga. Him, he just smiled from a distance. You know that smile. You know that African smile that tells you, hey, bro, not sure you know what you're doing, but digging a can of worms. Anyway, back to independence. On that day, 1960, Isaïe's words did not come to comfort the colonizers. His words did not come to massage the heart of the world that watched his country burn with oceans of blood. And his words did not come to tickle the ear to orgasm of a kingdom that saw his children and women face atrocities beyond human comprehension. No. His words carried the weight of chains of liberation. They brought the humiliation of fathers killed before their sons. They shot through the hearts of the theft of land and lives of Africans. His words carried an obvious truth. And the truth was that no whip, no prison, no nothing had ever stolen the people's dignity. And somewhere in the back of his head, he kept hearing this voice. You know that voice of the elders as they sat around the fire? And the voice kept saying, the river does not forget. As I said earlier, alisema ikamtoka, bro. He said what he said. And that day, he stood in the heat and the light of the world. And for once, the world was listening to an African voice. That day on the podium, he knew that this was his chance. He knew that one day, the voice of Pan-Africanism would be heard. And this is what he said. He said, who will ever forget the freedom that was not handed to us? It was fought for every single day. We fought when we were tired. We fought when we were hungry. We fought when the cost was our blood. And we never stopped. It was a fight of tears and fire and sacrifice. And we are proud of fighting. Because this fighting was just. It was necessary. And it tore down the chains they forced on us as Africans. And for 80 long years, we lived in the shadow of colonial rule. The wounds, they're still fresh. They're too deep, and we cannot pretend that these wounds are gone. We worked for tiny little crumbs that could not feed our families. We labored until our hands bled, yet we could not afford a roof worthy of our children. We were mocked in the morning. We were insulted in the afternoon, beaten at night, all because of the color of our skin. They took our land with laws that only protected their power. Their justice had two faces. One soft and kind for them, one cruel and merciless for us. We were jailed for what we believed. We were exiled from the soil that birthed us. We were punished for our faith. And many times, dying would have been the kinder choice. But we are still here. And we still remember. Bro, the applause, the jubilation that came from the crowd that day, bro, that thing was enough to make the colonizer lose his left ventricle. Isaïe stole that moment completely. And it's not clear, but people claim that after his speech, as Isaïe stepped down from the podium to go back to his seat, he passed by the colonizer king, looked him in the eye for the first time, and he said to him, "We are not your monkeys anymore." And that moment in Isaïe's speech gave birth to a chaotic post-independent country. Because you know the same hands that clapped for you are the same hands that will open the door to your enemies. Isaïe's African friends that smiled with him led him to the trap of colonial control. Some rivers carry you gently, only to deliver you to the crocodiles. The river does not forget. So, if you know Isaïe, show me that you know Isaïe without telling me the real name of Isaïe. Do you know Isaïe? Put it in the comments. Tell me who that is. Give me hints. Tell me what country it is. Tell me which year they got independence. Of course you know that. Yeah. I am the Kikombe, your second favorite storyteller. And the story is served.